You don't have a logic problem. You have a loyalty problem to your own ego. This is the one bias that survives intelligence, education, and experience. In fact, the smarter you are, the harder it is to spot. If you understand what I'm about to tell you, arguments will never feel the same again. If you don't, you'll keep mistaking emotional certainty for truth and calling it critical thinking. There's a split-second moment when your brain stops searching for accuracy and starts protecting identity. It feels righteous. It feels intelligent. It feels powerful. That moment is the trap. Watch for it. You're absolutely convinced you're a rational being. But that certainty, it's actually a major glitch in your biological hard drive. See, nobody thinks they're biased. Nobody believes they're the one being played. And honestly, that is exactly why this works so well. If you can wrap your head around what's actually happening here, you'll never see an argument the same way again. If you can't, you'll just keep mistaking a gut-level emotion for actual logic, and you'll probably call it intelligence. There is this precise moment when your brain just stops looking for truth and starts acting like a bodyguard for your ego. It's fast, it feels righteous, and you'll miss it every time unless you know what to look for. Picture a politician giving a speech. Half the people watching call it a masterclass. The other half call it a total disaster. They all heard the exact same words, yet they're living in two different worlds. You probably assume the other side is just lying or brainwashed, right? But look closer. They aren't lying. Their brains are literally building a different reality than yours. It's like a psychological inkblot test. I call it a presidential Rorschach. It proves that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And here's the part that actually gets dangerous. You think you're the exception. You think you're the logical one in a room full of emotional reactors. That's the trap. That feeling of being right. It isn't logic. It's an addiction. This is the confirmation trap. And it isn't just some small error in your thinking. It is a biological mandate. Your brain is hardwired to protect your identity at any cost. When you hear stuff that confirms what you already think, you get this massive hit of dopamine. It feels good. It feels safe. It feels like survival. But when you hear something that actually challenges you, your brain doesn't treat that as data. It treats it like a physical threat. Your amygdala starts firing off. You feel actual physical distress. So you reject it. You filter it out. You pretend it doesn't even exist. Think about the last blow-up you had with your partner. Were you really listening to understand them? Be honest. You were probably just scanning their words for ammunition. You were looking for that one slip-up so you could prove you were right. You were acting like a high-priced defense attorney for your own ego. This is the polarizing pitfall. You are unknowingly filtering your entire reality just to protect a fragile sense of self. You surround yourself with people who nod when you speak. You consume news that flatters your opinions. You build this massive fortress of validation, and then you have the nerve to call it the truth. But this fortress comes with a heavy price tag. It makes you blind. It makes you rigid. And right now it's probably steering your life using a map that doesn't even match the territory. Most people live their whole lives inside these invisible walls. They never realize that their certainty is just a story they tell themselves to avoid the sting of being wrong. But you're going to learn to see the walls. Imagine standing on the deck of an old wooden ship 500 years ago. Fog is everywhere. Suddenly you see a dark silhouette 100 yards ahead. In that split second, it's a binary choice. It's either a harmless cloud or a razor-sharp reef about to sink you. You don't have the luxury of time or depth charts. Reflex is all that matters. Your ancestors survived because they were experts at overcorrecting. They prioritized immediate safety over being nuanced. If they guessed it was a reef and steered away, the only cost was a few lost miles. But if they guessed it was a cloud and they were wrong, game over. That is the hardware you're running today. We call it cognitive filtering. But don't mistake it for a lack of logic. It's a ruthless efficiency shortcut designed to keep you from crashing. Your brain is a power-hungry engine, and processing ambiguity is expensive. Conclusions, however, burn nothing. So your mind evolved to grab the first familiar thing it sees. lock it in, and ignore the rest. It treats your existing beliefs like safety and anything new like a predator. But you aren't captaining a ship anymore. You're in a heated email chain. You're arguing across the dinner table or scrolling through a comment section. The environment has changed, but your biological machinery is exactly the same. When someone challenges your idea, your brain doesn't see an intellectual debate. It sees a physical threat. The adrenaline floods in. Your heart rate jumps. You can feel that heat rising in your chest. Notice that feeling the next time someone corrects you. You don't just think, "Oh, I was mistaken." You feel a tightening in your gut. You feel a desperate need to defend your ground. That isn't a passion for truth. It's a fight or flight response. You double down because your biology is screaming that admitting defeat is basically the same as getting eaten. And once that survival switch flips, your brain demands a chemical reward to justify the panic. You know the sensation, that flush of heat when you find a news article that perfectly aligns with your suspicions. That moment you win an argument and silence the room. It feels like victory, but biologically, it's just a hit. Your brain doesn't actually care about truth. It cares about stability. When you confirm a belief, you get flooded with dopamine. It's the same reward pathway as gambling or narcotics. You aren't just enjoying being right, you're literally getting high on it. This is the dopamine loop. Neuroscience tells us the brain perceives uncertainty as actual physical pain. Not knowing hurts. Being wrong feels like an attack. Your mind creates psychological distress whenever it hits information that contradicts your worldview. So you self-soothe. You reach for your phone. You open an app. You scroll. But you aren't looking for information. You're looking for relief. You scan past 10 headlines that challenge you, ignoring them completely, until your eyes lock onto the one that confirms what you already suspect. Click, read, dopamine. The pain of uncertainty vanishes. The anxiety of being wrong dissolves. You feel smart again. This is a survival mechanism for a fearful mind. You aren't analyzing the world. You're medicating yourself against the discomfort of complexity. Notice how this ruins your relationships. When someone challenges you, you don't just feel a difference of opinion. You feel a withdrawal symptom. Your brain is being denied its fix of certainty. That defensive anger, that is just an addict protecting their supply. The dangerous part is that this is happening below your conscious awareness. You believe you're doing research. You believe you're debating facts. But you're actually just trapped in a reinforcement cycle to keep your dopamine levels steady. You are rejecting the truth because the truth hurts, and the lie feels good. Once your brain learns that being right is a reward, it starts filtering your reality before you even see it. It builds a wall to keep the dopamine in and the uncomfortable truth out. You think you're an observer of reality, weighing evidence and forming conclusions. That is a lie. The process is running in reverse. First you decide what is true, then your brain goes to work rewriting reality to make sure you stay right. This is the polarizing pitfall, an aggressive filtering of your entire world. It's not just that you disagree with evidence, your brain frequently refuses to let you even perceive it. Look at a political debate or a bad sports call. Two people watch the exact same screen. One sees a foul, the other sees a flop. Neither is lying. They are literally processing two different realities. The addiction to being right is so strong, it hijacks your very senses. You don't see what is there, you see what keeps you safe. This is why you can show someone a chart or a direct quote that disproves their point, and they will stare right through it. To them, that evidence is just static. Their brain has filed it away as noise, so their pre-existing belief remains pure. Think about your last argument. Were you actually listening? Were you processing their words to understand them? Or were you just scanning their sentences for weak spots to attack? Most of the time, we're just waiting for our turn to speak. We cherry-pick phrases that prove they're wrong and we're right, while the actual nuance of their point evaporates. You hear what validates you. You deafen yourself to what challenges you, and the more you filter, the more proof you accumulate that you were right all along. You trade accuracy for certainty. You aren't seeing the world, you're looking in a mirror, and that mirror spills out into the world you build around you. This is the false consensus effect, the mechanism where you overestimate how much the rest of the world actually agrees with you. You assume your beliefs are the standard for sanity. And because your view is normal, anything else doesn't just look different, it looks broken. Take the battlefield of diet tribes. Picture a vegan listening to a carnivore explain the benefits of an all-meat diet. It isn't curiosity they feel, it's physical revulsion. They don't hear a counter-argument, they hear madness. Both parties walk away more convinced than ever, simply because the other side seems so absurd. But both are living in pocket universes. You do this too. Look at your phone and who you follow online. Over the last decade, you've unconsciously pruned your social reality. You've drifted away from friends who challenge you and muted the accounts that annoy you. You've built a hall of mirrors and mistook it for a window. Because you only see reflections of your own opinions, you start believing those opinions are universal. You assume 70% of people agree with you when, in reality, it might be 10%. This social bubble reinforces your addiction by making you feel like you're on the winning team. But comfort is not truth. You're standing in a room full of people who agree with you, convinced that the room is the whole world. It isn't. And that certainty, it's just the echo of your own voice. This is where the pattern goes from dangerous to terminal. It's one thing to believe a lie in private, but it's another to speak it into the world. Psychologists call it the consistency principle, but let's call it what it really is, the public prison. The moment you state an opinion to another person, you stop searching for truth. You start defending a fortress. Think about a debate you had where halfway through you saw a crack in your own logic. You realized for a split second that you might be wrong. Did you pause and admit it? Probably not. Your brain slammed that door instantly. You got louder. You started arguing points you didn't even believe, just to avoid the humiliation of backing down. You became a defense attorney for your past self from 5 minutes ago. You sacrifice your current intelligence to protect your past ignorance. Your brain interprets inconsistency as a threat to your survival. In a primitive tribe, being unreliable was a death sentence, so your mind evolved to prioritize looking consistent over being correct. Every word you speak adds another bar to the cell. You aren't debating a topic anymore, you're fighting for your reputation. Retraction looks like submission, and to the primitive mind, submission looks like death. You're locking the door from the inside and throwing away the key. But this goes deeper. There is a fundamental shift that happens when a belief takes root. It's the difference between having an opinion and being that opinion. When you have an opinion, it's a tool. You can inspect it, and if you find a better one, you put the old one down. It costs you nothing, but for the things you care about most, politics, religion, parenting, you don't just hold the opinion, you fuse with it. The label becomes your skin. The belief becomes a load-bearing wall in your soul. And that's where it gets dangerous. When you fuse your identity with an idea, an attack on that idea is a physical assault. Researchers have seen the amygdala light up in real time when core beliefs are challenged. Your body doesn't know the difference between "you're wrong about this data" and "you're about to be eaten." The adrenaline is the same. This is why you feel that hot tightness in your chest. You're fighting for survival. Admitting you're wrong at this level requires ego death. You have to let a part of yourself die. Most people won't do it. It hurts too much. So you double down. You twist logic into pretzels and deny what is right in front of your eyes just to keep the ego safe. But protecting this fragile identity is exhausting. And you can't do it alone. You need others to tell you that you're real. Your need to be right is actually a desperate need to not be left alone. Back in 1956, Solomon Asch ran a simple vision test. People were shown lines of different lengths and had to match them. It wasn't a trick, the answer was obvious. But the subject was sitting with actors who all chose the wrong line. When it was the subject's turn 33% of the time, they ignored their own eyes and agreed with the group. They chose to be factually wrong just to remain socially right. They denied reality to buy safety. This is happening to you right now. Your brain processes social rejection like physical pain. To your ancestors, exile meant death. Belonging was a necessity. Truth was a luxury. You aren't fighting for truth, you're fighting for your place in the herd. And now, you carry a machine in your pocket that ensures you never have to feel that isolation again. You think the algorithm shows you what you like, but it's actually designed to keep you looking. The fastest way to make you look away is to show you something that hurts your ego. So the machine hides the lions, the facts that challenge you. It stops showing you the truth and starts showing you a mirror. You aren't getting more informed, you're becoming radicalized by your own comfort. The algorithm has built a padded cell around your mind. It feeds you validation until your perspective feels like objective reality. This is why it's so jarring to talk to someone outside your bubble. You literally cannot understand how they see the world. You aren't seeing the world, you're seeing a commercial product designed to keep you engaged and feeling intellectually superior. The algorithm knows that if it challenges you, you'll leave, so it keeps you right, it keeps you safe, and it ensures you never have to change your mind. We've all been there, walking into a conversation armed with facts and data, certain that once they see the proof they'll have to agree, but they just get angry. They double down. This is the backfire effect. When you challenge a core belief, you trigger that biological alarm. You think it's a debate, but they feel like they're at war. Presenting evidence against a deeply held belief actually forces their brain to generate counter-arguments, which strengthens the neural pathways of their original belief. By forcing them to defend their position, you chemically cement it in their mind. You tried to pull them out of the trap, but your logic only pushed them deeper. This is why facts don't change minds when identity is on the line. The brain will burn down the truth to save the ego. But some people don't use force. They know how to bypass your shields entirely. Skilled manipulators don't start by challenging you. They start by agreeing. They tell you you're right to be angry. They get you hooked on the high of being understood. Then they use the withdrawal against you. You slowly steer toward their agenda because they are the source of your dopamine supply. Agreement isn't a strength, it's a vulnerability. Every time you crave validation, you're handing someone else the remote control to your emotions. This is especially true for people who think they're too smart to be manipulated. High intelligence doesn't protect you from bias, it weaponizes it. Smart people are often worse at spotting their own flaws because they have the mental horsepower to build a ladder over any contradictory fact. You have the horsepower to construct complex arguments for why the evidence you don't like must be wrong. You can find the tiny methodological flaw or the historical exception. Your intelligence isn't acting like a scientist, it's acting like a high-priced defense attorney. You aren't using your brain to analyze the world. You're using it to rationalize your gut feelings. Expertise can become a prison, so drop the defense that you know better. You don't. Your intelligence is currently working overtime to protect your ego, not your accuracy. This isn't just theory. Watch how modern manipulators work. Political operatives don't start with facts. They mirror your anger. You're 100% right to feel betrayed by the system. Then, they slide in their agenda like a dealer offering just one more hit of validation. Social media influencers do it too. They'll say, "I know you're tired of being gaslit." Suddenly you're hooked, and the next thing you know, you're buying their $200 course. Here's the brutal truth. Your brain defiantly prefers a comfortable lie over an uncomfortable truth. Why? Because cognitive dissonance, that gut-wrenching feeling when facts challenge your beliefs, hurts. Literally, fMRI scans show it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. So your mind takes the path of least resistance. This data must be fake. But what if you leaned into that discomfort? What if, when your chest tightens during an argument, you asked, "What if I'm wrong?" What would that even feel like? Once this is where the real work begins. Not in winning debates, but in building cognitive flexibility. It's like training a muscle. When you feel right, pause and ask, what would convince me otherwise? Follow one opposing view for 24 hours. For example, if you're left-leaning, read The Federalist. If right, read The Atlantic. Text a friend who disagrees with you. "I saw this article, what's your take?" No debate, just listen. This won't feel good at first. Your amygdala will scream. But over time, the panic fades. You'll start craving nuance instead of certainty. And that's when you realize you were never defending truth. You were defending your fear of being wrong. The moment you stop treating opinions like life or death battles, You reclaim your power. You stop seeing enemies and start seeing people. And that's the ultimate hack. When you're no longer afraid of being wrong, you become impossible to manipulate. Sit with the bias blind spot. The conviction that while everyone else is viewing reality through a distorted lens, you're the one person seeing it in high definition. But certainty is just an emotional state, like hunger or joy. You can feel 100% certain and be 100% wrong. Try to prove yourself wrong right now. Notice that tightness in your chest. That isn't intelligence. It's the trap defending its territory. If you can't tolerate the feeling of being wrong, you aren't objective. You're captured. This addiction isn't free. It's the most expensive subscription you've ever signed up for. Think of the investments you held too long, or the relationships you turned into battlegrounds. You traded intimacy for supremacy. The moment you decide you're right, you stop learning. You're living in a cage of your own certainties. It feels safe, but it's small. You're trading infinite potential for the suffocating comfort of what you already believe. This is the opportunity cost. The life you didn't live because it didn't fit your narrative. To break this, you need a protocol. Treat that rush of being right like a warning flare. When you feel that surge of adrenaline, stop the scroll, stop the conversation. Do the most unnatural thing possible. Hunt for the evidence that proves you wrong. Steelman the opposition until their view makes as much sense as yours. It will hurt. That discomfort is the sensation of growth. It's the feeling of your brain forming new neural pathways. That pain means you're finally seeing the world as it actually is. Stop trying to win. Start trying to understand. Surgically remove your self-worth from your opinions. Become the one who learns, rather than the one who knows. When you make this switch, the threat response vanishes. Imagine walking into a disagreement and feeling nothing but curiosity. When you're willing to be wrong, you become impossible to manipulate. You choose to be effective instead of being right. You step out of the box entirely. You see the machinery now. The dopamine, the identity fusion, the algorithm's padded cell. That weight you feel is the feeling of waking up. For your whole life, that need for certainty was keeping you small. Freedom is found in the silence between a challenge to your beliefs and your reaction to it. That silence is where your life actually happens. When you stop burning energy, defending a fortress that doesn't exist, you get that energy back for connection and creativity. Most people will never leave this trap. They'll spend their years fighting phantom enemies in a narrow feedback loop. You don't have to be one of them. You've broken the circuit. This lesson stays with you. The pattern will still appear. The instinct to defend will still rise up. Your brain will still try to filter out the facts that hurt. But now, you'll recognize it. You'll see the mechanism spinning. And because you can see it, you don't have to obey it. You can choose curiosity over comfort, truth over validation. And that quiet awareness, that's where everything begins to change. But here's what nobody tells you. The real test isn't when you're analyzing someone else's bias. It's Tuesday morning at the coffee shop when you catch yourself doing it again. You're scrolling through comments on your last video, and there it is, a single sentence that sets your jaw tight. This creator clearly doesn't understand basic economics. Your finger hovers over the reply button. Adrenaline surges. You start drafting a scathing rebuttal about how they're missing key data points, when suddenly you pause. That pause, that's the moment. The exact moment you've been training for. I had this happen last week. Saw a comment calling my dopamine loop explanation oversimplified. My first thought, this person clearly skipped Psychology 101. My fingers flew to the keyboard to dismantle their argument. But then I remembered the protocol. Stop, breathe, hunt for truth. So instead of replying, I opened a new browser tab. Searched for dopamine loop neuroscience critique. Found 3 legitimate papers questioning the oversimplification. My face burned. They were right. Here's the uncomfortable part. Being wrong doesn't feel like victory. It feels like falling. Your ego screams, but I worked so hard on this, while your brain frantically tries to reframe the new information as not that important. That's the trap fighting back. But if you sit with that discomfort for just 10 seconds longer than feels natural, something shifts. The panic recedes. You start seeing connections you missed before. Try this today. The next time you feel that familiar rush of being right, do one tiny thing. Count to 10 out loud. Not in your head, out loud. Say 1, 2, right there in the grocery line or at your desk. It breaks the amygdala hijack, creates space between the trigger and your reaction. That space, that's where freedom lives. And when you finally reply to that critical comment, don't defend. Say, you made me reconsider this. Here's what I missed. Watch what happens. The argument deflates. The person who wanted to fight suddenly becomes a collaborator, because nobody expects you to actually change your mind. This is where the magic happens. Not in grand epiphanies, but in those micro moments when you choose curiosity over conquest. When you let yourself be wrong in the comments section, you're practicing for the bigger battles, the ones with your spouse, your boss, your own stubborn heart. It's messy. You'll still get defensive, you'll still type that angry reply and delete it. But each time you catch yourself, that's neural rewiring in action. You're literally building a new brain pathway, one that values understanding more than winning. And here's the best part. When you stop needing to be right, you finally have energy for what matters. That project you abandoned because it felt too risky. The friend you pushed away for disagreeing with you. The quiet parts of yourself you silenced to fit the narrative. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming awake. So when you feel that familiar heat rising next time, don't fight it. Smile. Because that's the sound of your cage door finally creaking open. Until next time, stay vigilant, my friend.